Welcome back and thank you for staying with us on Testify. With us today is 10, and if you're just joining us, you missed a bit of the story, but there's more for you to hear. So we left it at you have left work, and are staying at home blogging.
Yes.
And so at what point did you again decide, I think we can try?
At this point, we immediately after the second miscarriage, we felt we needed just to heal, especially not just physically, but the heart. It takes a little longer. And I remember having that conversation with my husband, and we agreed, a year. Let's breathe for a year. At the time, though, I remember I was feeling really desperate for a baby. And it's odd, by the way, when I got married, I never really had this serious excitement about kids. But now that we had lost 2 children, I don't know whether it was a void, but I really felt like I wanted a baby so badly. But my husband was not ready.
We're talking about the second child.
Yes, after the second loss, yeah.
Tell me about the second loss first.
So the second loss, this happened at 8 weeks. It was a pregnancy at first trimester. So again, we just started spotting, and by the time I got to the hospital, the miscarriage was already in the process of happening. So this baby could not have been salvaged. The baby salvaged the first pregnancy.
So the first time it was listeria. Now what was it?
No explanations at all. And that actually tends to be the case for first trimester losses. So like in the first pregnancy for us, you remember I had mentioned we had a 6-week threatened miscarriage, and so I was put on hormonal medicine. And so I remember my doctor saying, I'm seeing a trend with your first trimester. And she said, if in the future we will have to be doing hormone therapy, like hormone medicine, immediately you discover you're pregnant. We will not wait for you to, spot and come to the hospital, because clearly it's becoming a trend. So that was sort of like an inferred conclusion. Yeah.
And that's how you lost your
second baby. Yeah.
Wow.
So now at this point is when my husband said, I think we need some time to just wait. And I think that was a big test for me, even in our marriage, because to be on 2 different pages is hard when you want a baby tomorrow, and he feels we need to wait probably indefinitely.
Yeah.
But the fact when he shared about that fearing of losing his wife, as well as it's not just child loss. The 2 experiences.
That was the reason why he wanted you to take a break.
Yeah, and I started to really understand that. He saw pregnancy as this really dangerous thing, which had almost taken the life of his wife, and so it was understandable. But I remember really keeping busy. Women, we are great at projects. And it helped. It really did help. And at this point, I had started, because of the blog, I'd written about my first loss, and I had gotten a lot of responses. And so I had a lot of inboxes and emails that were turning into coffee meetings and lunches. And so that was keeping me busy. So what I did is the entire of 2015, I threw myself into a lot of work. I launched Still a Mom in October that year, did a proper event. I really put in a lot of work, kind of just to distract myself so that pregnancy stops being this obsession. So we waited for a year, and then we said in this was the whole of 2014 we waited. So in 2015 we say, I think we can start trying. I'm feeling like my heart is fine. And so we try and we try and we try, and something that was not so hard to do in the past now became really hard. Month after month of late periods, you take a pregnancy test and it's negative, and then a couple of days later the periods come back. Kind of like it felt like somebody was making fun at you. So we tried, and then this now October, we decided, let's go see the doctor.
You said in January of the year.
Yeah.
Now this is October.
Yeah. Nothing. And so we go to the doctor, and she says, okay, 10 months. I think that's reason for us to check. And so she sends us for HSG. It's what tests tubes, your fallopian tubes, whether they are blocked or they are not. So for those who've done HSG, every time I share my story, whenever I say HSG, people just grimace. You can just see them making a bad face. It's not a nice test. So technically they put ink, and it's supposed to kind of make like and then there's an X-ray as part of the HSG test. So it's supposed to show how the ink went.
Wow.
So if so technically, as you're being put ink with a syringe, and it's supposed to pour out if they were not blocked. If there's blockage, then the ink does not go past a certain point, and it's a really painful experience. And so we did the HSG test, and I remember we were told, come back after 3 days, your test will have been sent to the doctor. And so we come back to our doctor. She's a really amazing guy now. And she says, I've been looking for this test for 3 days. And I don't even know what to make of them. And because she's walked the journey with us for many years, you could already tell it was stressing her. And so she says, so she gives us the test, this big envelope with the X-ray results, and talks about bilateral permanent blockage. Like both of them are blocked.
The tubes are blocked.
Yes, completely permanently blocked, and actually blocked all the way to the uterus. Like the uterus is fine, but the entire tube blocked. And so she's there giving us options. What are the next steps? And she says, we have a chance to go into surgery. We can do a laparoscopy.
What would that be?
That would be operating the tubes to clear the blockage.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's an option. But she says, what? It's really 5% success rate. And
5%.
Yeah. And now because we even have 2 blocked tubes, the success rate even goes lower. She also tells me, what? Sometimes we will do successful surgery and the tubes get unblocked, but for one reason or another, people don't conceive. And she says, you see like the hairs in your nose that prevent you from having material get into your nose that would make you sneeze. She says even the tubes have that, like they have hairs that aid in the sperm moving. So sometimes you will have surgery and those hairs are ruined.
Wow.
So you can have very clean tubes, but the process itself of fertilization is difficult.
Yeah.
And so with all that, she says, what I feel, and it's also expensive. And she says, let's talk about IVF. And she tells, so we are there in that office talking about the pros and cons, which one has success rate, better success rate. And so the eventual conversation is IVF. So IVF. I feel like you'd better take your money here. It's equally expensive, but I'd rather you invest here.
More chances.
It has slightly more chances.
Yeah.
And so IVF, for anyone who doesn't understand, is in vitro fertilization. It's kind of what layman's language test tube babies. It's doing the job of the tubes in a lab.
Yeah.
It's bringing the sperm and bringing the egg and putting them together, which is what the job of the tube does.
Wow.
But doing that in a lab. And then taking the embryos that have been made from that and putting them back in you so that now you can continue that proper pregnancy.
Wow.
Now, I've said that in seriously layman terms. I cannot even begin to describe to you how the IVF procedure feels like physically, leave alone financially and emotionally.
Yeah.
Like there are injections, like daily injections. Like it's quite something. And so when she said about IVF, and I love her because she even said, go see other doctors. Let's see what they say. Go with these results. Let's see what they say. And we saw 3 other doctors who repeated the exact same thing, including Dr. Nore of IVF Center. And so he repeated the exact same thing. He said, what, this uterus I can work with. This one we can implant without worrying. What I'm worried about is about these tubes. Yeah. So the fact that your uterus is healthy means we can do what the tube does in the lab, then come back and put the embryos and let's the uterus do its job. But you see, we have to understand that IVF also has the success rate is not very high. Yeah. It's of course higher in other countries, but we are not doing so badly, but the success rate here is not so good either. And also IVF is a game of probability. So the reason, like for example, you get those injections is you see every month you release 1 egg. But IVF being probability, they need many to be fertilized. Yeah. So that it's like exactly whatever your body does naturally, remember, is now done in the lab. So naturally, if there's a poor quality egg, the embryo may be not of very high quality. So even in the lab, they are trying to get many eggs, fertilize them. Some embryos will die along the way. Some will, not be of good health, and they'll be left with, let's say, 5 really, really good embryos. Yeah. And then again, they still implant many. So that's why you will find people who've done IVF have triplets, twins, because they never implant 1. Yeah. They implant 2 or 3. So that, again, probability. hopefully one of them attaches correctly to the uterine wall. And I know there's a very healthy debate going on about the church and IVF. And I've had a lot of people ask me, you know, you're born again, why would you go that route? And to be honest, I feel that's everyone's journey with the Lord. Yeah. There are people God is telling you, wait, I will still give you a baby. There are people who are saying, who God is telling, go to adoption. Like, you need to hear God for yourself. Yeah? Depending on your level of faith and what you and the Lord are having a conversation. I will say this without fearing that I'm contradicting myself. I feel that is where God was telling us to go. I'm confident of it.
You prayed about it.
We prayed about it.
Yeah.
We actually even prayed about the money where we like God literally provided even a way for finances. You know, like we felt this was it. And looking back, because by the IVF procedure did not work.
Oh.
Yeah, so 2016 January we start IVF, and it's really a month-long procedure. At some point when you're done for there's usually they remove the eggs, which is actually a really painful process. Then they do the lab work, and then when they have the embryos, they do an embryo transfer process. And then you're put on bed rest like you're not supposed to, so that the attachment is encouraged. And then 2 weeks later, you're supposed to come take a pregnancy to the test to see, like, did it work?
Yeah.
So it didn't. So our 3 embryos, nothing. The 2 that had been left, because we had 5 healthy embryos that were to be frozen, so to speak, along the way also did not do very well. So we were back to square one with no frozen embryos. The 3 that we've been put have not worked. And so that was probably January of 2016. That's how we started our year. Yeah, just a lot of bad news.
Yeah. And what did that make you feel?
Oh, let me tell you, Sharon, I had handled loss twice, but nothing quite feels bad like an IVF procedure that didn't work. Because here I was, now finally realizing, you know, you may not get kids ever.
Yeah.
Like ever. Like maybe like children may not be in the books for you. And that was a lot to process. Like I remember laying on the ground and telling God, really, we have gotten here. This is where we have come. And you know, and it took me, like 2016 was one of the hardest years I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
This point I have done Still a Mom. I've been doing Still a Mom. We're doing well. We have started working with counselors. We're doing support groups. We even have people who we supported in the first few groups who are now pregnant again. I'm throwing these women baby showers.
And you.
And my own
story is just totally.
Yes. But for some reason, let me tell you, God is amazing.
Yeah.
At some point, I told God, I need you to give me joy to do this. Like, I cannot be comparing my journey. Like, let me be genuinely excited that somebody who went through loss came through counseling and is pregnant again. I mean, that is something to celebrate.
Yeah.
Setting aside what I'm going through.
Sure.
And God did, in fact, give me that. Like, I served with gladness. Kabisa.
Amen.
Like, I can't even explain it. It is the only way to say that God really gave me joy. It was the way to provide joy when it is not in your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, hold it right there. We have a bit of the story that is still remaining, so stay with us. Please don't go too far, because when we come back, we will be wrapping up the story.